I'm going to start with this, a team favored to make the playoffs that won't, to see if anyone actually would go as big as the 49ers. I do want to say who are the teams that are favored to make the playoffs in Vegas. So the 49ers are the team most likely to, according to the desert. The Lions, the Eagles, the Packers, the Cowboys, and the Falcons. Those are a pretty strong 6 who are favored to make the playoffs. The Rams and the Bears were next. They were kind of even odds as the 7th team. A little surprised the Bears were in there. We're going to go around the room. Everyone's going to pick one of those teams that you do not think make the playoffs. Steve, you look like you want to jump in.
I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
Okay.
I mean, as crazy as it sounds, here's a team that routinely wins 12 games. It only takes 9 to get in. Will they make that 6-game swing? They could. I mean, I know they got CD back. Their offense is going to get better. Their young offensive line looks good. Dalvin Cook, I mean, is he your answer in the ground game?
No, I mean, is he going to be better than Rico Dowdle? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like what they have in the run game. I know Mike Zimmer is a great defensive coordinator. I don't know. When I look at the team, when we say favored, I mean, that's the thing. I personally think they are a playoff team. But when you look at the teams that is favored,
well, then they should be your answer.
You
got to eliminate someone.
Well, okay, you know what? I'm just going to say the Cowboys. I'm going to say the Cowboys. Here's where I hedge, because I just don't know if there's a division that's going to give us 3 teams. Like we're going to see in the AFC North again. We're going to see 3 teams. Like I just don't know if there's that division.
I think the NFC West or the NFC
the
North
NFC West could.
I had the Cowboys written down too. I think they're thin at a lot of positions where one injury really hurts them, but they're
correct.
Their linebackers, the offensive line going from what was a strength to a weakness, the depth of the wide receiver group. I don't know if this is going to be a good defense in Dallas.
Yeah, I have the Cowboys written down.
Okay.
And I really think part of it is because the specter of what could possibly become of this team is just waiting right around the corner. It feels like, the coach on the final deal, the Dak situation. Here's a hypothetical. If you're Jerry Jones, and they know more about this situation internally than we know publicly clearly, right? But here's just the hypothetical. Play this string out with me a little bit. If you are clear, or if internally you are aware that your franchise quarterback potentially is not going to sign a deal with you, or you're not going to pay this guy, you already know you're not going to pay him what he's asking, then you're collecting calls, trying to see if you can recoup anything from the loss of what this player will be before November, and you're not re-signing your head coach, and you're not re-signing several players, and you have a core receiver who can help a different quarterback develop into that roster. This is a hypothetical situation, but I think if I'm Jerry Jones and I'm, talking to, our guy Clarence Hill about what great GM he is, and nobody, you're obviously thinking about, if this guy leaves, what can I recoup instead of just coming away with nothing and just having to rebuild with no resources on the backside. And if I'm Dak, I do want to go and actually test free agency and actually get paid what I think I'm worth and what I think he will be worth.
Well, you mentioned those Jerry Jones quotes, and he was talking about Dak Prescott this week. Let's listen to what Dak Prescott said on Thursday, courtesy of KDFW Fox 4 in Dallas.
Yeah, I understand that. That's the business and the nature of this game that we play. I stopped, honestly, listening to things that he says to the media a long time ago. So it doesn't really hold weight with me.
I mean, it's funny.
I know there were some chuckles, but there was some biting in there.
When he says he's talking about his boss, Jerry Jones. Wait, was it a clean sweep? Did you write down the Cowboys too?
I did not.
Okay, we'll stop burying the Cowboys for a second, but I'm with you. I don't know if I can get there on that they could ever trade Dak in season. That they would have to really start slow for that to happen.
If you're already committed that you're blowing up your team after this season, then you are.
But they're gonna want to try to make it work this year. They're a live in the moment type of franchise. But you're right. Just a coach who won't be back, a quarterback that won't be back. Those are bad signs. Let's hear from you, Keegan, in terms of what the team you wrote down.
All right, so the smart take, I think, would be the Falcons, just because I think that people are just putting them in by default, and there's still a lot of questions about that offense. Their defense is not going to be as good after losing Ryan Nielsen. But I'm going to start out with a boom, going Eagles.
Ooh!
And I noticed that I was the only
like that.
one in the staff
This is how we
picks.
get the Cowboys fans back.
Exactly. I was the
Listening
only
to the
one
show.
in the staff picks I noticed that had them missing out of 30 people.
Wow.
So let me go through a little bit.
And by the way, clever that you're last name is the first in every list, so you get more pop than all the other analysts.
Shout out to the Lebanese
I see what you're doing.
family. Anyway, so basically, like, I think Kelsey being the loss of Kelsey, everyone talks about it, but I do think that's going to be a huge loss, especially with the new coordinator. Will be the first time that Jalen Hurts ever calls protections in his life, if that's up to him. If not, it's Cam Jurgens, who it would be his first time playing center as a NFL pro, because last year when Kelsey missed a game, I think they kept him at right guard or left guard for continuity. From an offensive perspective, like, I think the book might be out a little bit on Jalen Hurts. You know, you blitz him. Someone said that in Mike Sando's tiers. It was an anonymous coach that said you just cover zero, blitz him. They have supreme talent. Don't get me wrong. They have Saquon Barkley that's going to add explosion, but I don't think that just automatically assuming this offensive problems are going to be fixed that we saw over the second half of last season. And then on the other side of the ball, one of the worst defenses in the league last year. They invest in the secondary, have 2 great picks by most people's metrics in the draft, but you're expecting a lot out of rookies.
Mm-hmm.
You have 2 aging cornerbacks outside of that. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's a big improvement for their slot defense, especially, and that's where they really struggled last year. I think they allowed the most yards to slot receivers last year. But you have Fletcher Cox retiring. You have Bryce Huff, who's going to be a full-time player for the first time in his career. And you have really no depth beyond Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, who are not
That's
really
an issue.
full-time players. Like, Jordan Davis has never really eclipsed 60% snap share in his career. So I don't know. I just think it's a lot more of a fragile team than people are saying. And, you know, if the heat's hot, I could also see Sirianni, getting canned early.
Yeah.
That's a great, real quick, talking about the D-tackle lack of depth there. That's an issue because behind him, you don't have great linebackers.
Yeah.
I mean, Nakobe Dean is a hell of a talent, but that guy, when you look at him in person, you would think that maybe he's a slot corner. Like, he's about as big as Kenny Moore.
And he's not. I don't think he's going to start either, which is also a problem. I mean, I think he's coming off the bench. You're right that I think they're a little more fragile. I'm high on them because I like the talent, but
Yeah, I think
there's a lot of
offensively, they're
teams like
loaded.
this, and they're similar to Dallas, where just if things start going poorly, it's going to really test that coaching staff and the structure. And we know that the front office were kind of the ones pushing these coordinators, and you have some guys there that are just ready to elevate, and the vibes weren't great with Hurts. I'm hoping that they really integrate him into the running game and that they provide some answers that maybe Sirianni didn't as a coordinator. I'll go with Falcons, by the way, anyways, just because I didn't have them in my playoffs, so I might as well. I just think there's a lot of projection there with the defense, assuming that it's going to be a lot better. And a 36-year-old Kirk Cousins, who is always an inconsistent player to me, coming off an Achilles tear, I'm just not convinced that he's going to be a plus quarterback. And if he's an average quarterback, we'll see.